Episode number 883, F.E.A.R Forward.
You're listening to the official BNI podcast with BNI founder and Chief Visionary Officer, Dr. Ivan Misner. Stay tuned for networking and referral marketing tips from the man who's been called the father of modern networking, along with suggestions and insights into getting the most from your membership in the world's largest networking organization, BNI.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the official BNI podcast. I'm Priscilla Rice, and I'm coming to you from Live Oak Recording Studio in Berkeley, California, and I'm joined on the phone today by the founder and the Chief Visionary Officer of BNI, Dr. Ivan Misner. Hello, Ivan. How are you, and where are you?
I actually have some grass growing under my feet today, and I'm home in Austin, Texas. So,
Oh, great.
it's good to be in one place. I have a good friend on as a guest today. I've known him for a number of years. Dr. Oudi is the founder of Inspired Results, which is a global performance coaching training company in Abu Dhabi. And he's got 2 decades of experience as a chiropractor, coach, and speaker. He's a renowned performance expert. He and I have spoken on stage together on a couple of occasions. He was formerly an ED for BNI in Abu Dhabi, and he is my co-author on a book that I have talked about several times here on BNI podcast, Work Your Network with the 4 C's. And I have him here on my podcast today. Dr. Oudi, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. So you have an interesting topic, F.E.A.R Forward. Now, the whole topic was F.E.A.R Forward to live an inspired professional life. Talk to me about that. How do you move forward in business and face your fears?
Yeah, well, first of all, let's review what most people do. Most people actually avoid even addressing their fears, and they face every other thing on their to-do list, every goal they have, and maybe their bucket list, but they don't actually face the thing that could probably leverage their life and get them to the next level, which is their fears.
Yeah, why do you think that is?
Well, I think it's because we've been taught that the fundamental human fear is fear of the unknown. And I believe it's totally antiquated and it's totally inaccurate. It's really what's holding people back.
So what happens then when you break free from that chains of what are holding you back?
Well, I think what happens is you'll take a quantum leap forward and you'll start to approach your vision. But again, it starts with changing the model that's operating in our minds. We think that we're afraid of the unknown, but you can't actually fear the unknown.
Yeah, I know a lot of people in BNI that get caught up in some fear or another about whether they're good enough or whether they are bringing enough referrals or doing a good job for people, and they get caught up in those fears and they get. And I came up with this phrase a number of years ago. You either get frozen by fear or focused by fear. And when you get focused by fear, you have a lot more success than when you get frozen by fear. So I think you have some steps to help people get out of fear. What are those, I think, 3 steps?
Yeah. Well, step 1 is we got to break the existing paradigm in people's minds, because that's really what's holding them back. So if we're not afraid of the unknown, what I'm proposing is that we're afraid of the known, because you can't actually generate an emotion without some substance, some information, a definition or content in the mind. And so fear the unknown is completely false, which means we fear the known, and the known is our past. So what we're really afraid of is actually running into yesterday, tomorrow.
I wonder if I can remember the phrase. Today is the day we were afraid of yesterday, or something like today is the tomorrow we were afraid of yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that. But that's the idea. We think we're afraid of the mystery of tomorrow when we're really afraid of the history of yesterday.
Yeah.
And if I share with you a really short story to kind of drive the point home.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you'd like. Yeah. So this entrepreneur came to see me with a health complaint. She had neck pain and a blocked ear. She's been all around the world and wasn't able to find a solution. And what I said to her is, let's just take a minute and look at what's going on in the mind. What are you most afraid of? And she said, I'm afraid of not being able to have a child. And this was not only, impacting her health, but it was impacting her business as well. So I said to her, maybe you don't want to have a child. She's like, no, I really do. We've tried IVF. I've even carried and had failed pregnancies. And I said, look, I believe you, but I believe maybe your mind is working against you. And what I said to her was, if right now I snap my fingers and you would have a child in this moment, what would be your greatest fear? She took a deep breath and she said, oh my goodness, I'm afraid of turning out like my mother.
Mm.
Right? So when we cleared her fear, and that's probably a common one, when we cleared her fear, all her symptoms dropped off. I was talking to a chiropractor friend and she said, oh, it's amazing that you didn't adjust her. You didn't adjust her physically, you just adjusted her thinking. And I say, I adjusted her story. And then all of a sudden her symptoms dropped off. And I said, yeah. She said, that's amazing. But did she get pregnant? And I was like, I'm not sure. She's like, what's wrong with you? That's the most important part of the story. And I said, well, listen, I'd lost touch with her, but it was interesting is it was a year and a day after I coached her. And when I did coach her, by the way, all her symptoms dropped off, but she also connected with her mom. She said that they were scheduled to see each other again. And she put the past behind her because it was an event, of course, that she didn't want to relive. And then guess what happened? It was amazing is that day, a year and a day later, I was just kind of doodling with my pencil on the paper and playing with the acronym FEAR. And I get a message from her. And it wasn't a message saying that she got pregnant because that would be next level. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, it was even better than that. She sent me a picture of her newborn baby.
Amazing. Amazing.
Yep. And I can tell you that, and as business professionals, we have the same competing fears, right? She had a fear of not having a child and she had a fear of having a child. Yeah. And in business, we have a fear of succeeding and we have a fear of failing. A fear of failing. So failure and success are oftentimes competing fears that are pulling us apart.
Yeah, that's powerful. That's really powerful. Now, did you throw in your step 2 in there, which is I think about when did I experience something similar? Is that something different?
Yes. Yeah. So step 1 is realize that what we're afraid of is not the mystery of tomorrow. It's the history of yesterday. Step 2 is in that first step as well, you can do an inventory and list your fears. I have a fear of my business failing. I have a fear of my business succeeding. I have a fear of public speaking, etc. List your fears. Okay. So that's step 1. Then step 2, you want to establish the source. Where does this fear come from? When did I experience something similar? So when I ask business professionals, you're afraid of your business failing. Okay. So if you're afraid of your business failing, you must have experienced it directly. You had a failed business before, or indirectly. You witnessed someone or watched or heard about someone that failed in business. And that's what you're afraid of repeating. That's the second step. The third step is rewriting the story. So as a chiropractor for many years, I was moving bones around and I was adjusting bones. But what I'm doing now is I'm adjusting stories. I'm helping people realize that they are the producers of their own movie. They're the directors of their own movie. You can change the narrative. You can change the story, and then fear just drops off and you're no longer one step behind fear.
So this is a segue. Is there anything else on those 3 steps that you want to talk about? Because you had a great segue about rewriting your story that I want to jump into, but anything else on those 3 steps?
Just that sometimes it's not obvious. Like you think, when I coach people when they're afraid of public speaking, I remember speaking to one gal in particular and she said, well, how can I be afraid of history repeating itself when frankly, there is no history? I've never spoken on a grand stage before. And what I say is, if you're looking for the exact same scenario, you're not going to find it, but you need to look for critical elements. And this one particular gal that I'm thinking of, she actually spoke up in English class and she had broken English and they laughed at her. So that's what she was afraid of.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, you're talking about rewriting your story and you're producing a documentary based on some of what we discussed today. You want to talk about that briefly?
Yeah, absolutely. So the idea is I really want people to understand that what's holding us back, as Napoleon Hill said, is fear. And fear, he said, is the most costly human emotion. So that's number 1. Realize that fear sits at the center of every problem. And if it sits at the center of every problem, it stands tall at the center of every solution if we know how to leverage it. And then I want to, of course, debunk this idea that what we're afraid of is the unknown. We're afraid of the known, which empowers us. Because with fear of the unknown, it's disempowering because you can't do anything about it, right? You're literally, fear's one step ahead of you. You got to find out what you're afraid of when you step onto the stage. And so it's really a disempowering concept. And then what I want people to understand is what can happen when you break free, right? When you break free from those chains that are holding you back, you can transform your business. It can transform your health. It can bring in another human being into this world. It can really take your life to the next level.
And as I understand, you've got in the movie Brian Tracy, John DeMartini have come on board. I believe you're on board, and somebody else is on board that you had a conversation with.
Yeah, that would be Ivan Meisner from BNI. You might have heard.
Yes, I just agreed to be part of the movie as well. And so, if someone's interested in more information on the movie, they can email you at info@droudi.com. That's DROUDI.com. And the movie website is inspired.movie, inspired.movie. Is that right?
Exactly. That's perfect, Ivan. Yes, thank you.
Anything else before we hand it back to Priscilla?
Yeah, I would just give I want listeners just to understand one thing. If you want to focus on business, then just take a piece of paper or put it in your computer or something and just document all the conscious fears that you have, all the things you're afraid of. I'm afraid of public speaking. I'm afraid of criticism. I'm afraid of whatever. And also realize that in this inventory of fears, you can also list unconscious fears. These are fears that are operating under a different title. So you might call it stress or struggle or obstacle or issue or challenge. Those are, for me, just, code for fear. So just make a list, because that's where it starts.
And we'll be working on this movie together to hopefully get there. And as the movie progresses, I'll make sure and put it out on this podcast.
Amazing, Ivan. Thank you so much.
Dr. Oudi, thank you so much for being on BNI Podcast, and thanks for being a co-author on Work Your Network with the 4 C's. Priscilla, back to you.
Okay, great. What was that? Inspired.movie.com?
No, inspired.movie.
And that's it. You just put that in? www.inspired.movie?
Yeah, I just put it. I just tried it. It's inspired.movie. You don't even have to put the www.
Ah, okay. Okay, great. All right. Thank you. It sounds very interesting. I'm going to go look it up.
Good.
Okay. Well, thanks for the great information from both of you. This podcast is sponsored by MeisnerAudioPrograms.com. These audio programs will provide you with the tools and the inspiration to powerfully enhance your BNI experience. So check out the great material that's available to you at MeisnerAudioPrograms.com, and then use the promo code IVAN50 for 50% off of everything. All of the proceeds go to the BNI Foundation. Thank you so much for listening. This is Priscilla Rice, and we look forward to having you join us again next week for another exciting episode of the official BNI podcast.